Hello everyone, welcome back and Happy New Year. Thank you for joining our webinar today. Hello, Aisha. My name is Mikey and I'll be your host and moderator for today's session. As we're waiting for more people to join, tell us why you're here today and how you're feeling. Leave an emoji in the chat box on your right. Hi everyone. Nice. Hi Lim. Great. Hello, hi Chin. We'll just wait one more minute before we move on to the session. Hi Sharman. Nice, thank you Joris, this is awesome. Okay, 2 minutes in, I think we're ready to start. So I'm honored today to be joined by mental health coach, Pamilia Andrew, to present From Resolution to Reality, Setting and Achieving Your Aspirations for 2023. So just before we start, a little bit of housekeeping, since I'm sure most of you are new to this platform, Demio. So before we get started, if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them in the chat box on your right. And remember, if you want to remain anonymous, be sure to tick send as private message when you're sending a message to Pam. We will address any outstanding questions at the end during the Q&A session. This will be an interactive session filled with chat-in opportunities, polls, and handouts. So please, I encourage you to participate as much as possible to make the most of our hour together. And please do remember, the presentation will be shared as a PDF document at the end of the webinar. Now, without further ado, let's welcome our speaker, Pam. Pam is a clinical psychologist and assistant professor at the Department of Psychology at IIUM. With over 10 years of experience in the government and non-governmental sector, and a master's and doctoral degree in clinical and counseling psychology, Pam is a certified in-person counseling skills and has implemented intervention programs to improve the well-being of adolescents living in shelter homes across KL. All right, over to you, Pam.
Thank you so much, Mikey, and Happy New Year, everyone. I'm so excited to be able to share with you a little bit of tips and tricks and techniques of how we can maneuver through the new year with a little bit more of structure, while also being able to execute our to-do lists and also our goals, the things that we probably left over from last year and then bringing over to this year as well. So allow me to share with you a little bit about this. My name is Pam. So feel free to keep it interactive. You can type in the chat box at any time. Okay, so if you have any questions, please keep it coming. You can also private message me in the chat box, just as Mikey said just now. So let's get on to this. I'm going to share a little bit about all of these particular agendas that you see here. So why some resolutions remain as only resolutions. How can we make better New Year resolutions, and the 3 steps that I want to share with you. So remember, you can keep your questions in the chat box as well. You can keep it totally interactive. Feel free to type in any comment also that if you want to also share. All right. All right, so we're going to see how we can really try to translate our resolutions into reality. Did you know that about 80% of resolutions actually kind of fail by the time they get to February? I mean, think about your resolutions last year. Did anyone even make resolutions? I mean, do people still do that? Did you do that? Maybe you can type in the chat box and let us know. Like, I think I did do resolutions as well, but usually in the past, the most common problem that we find occurring is that we tend to overplan and over resolute, and we tend to have a long list of it. So here are some reasons as to why people usually fail New Year resolutions. By the time you get to June, it's like, what did I actually plan for? So these are some reasons, very common reasons according to research here. So the first one, the huge one, is like they lose motivation, which I think I can relate to as well. So as I'm sharing with you, can you type in the chat box which one is your reason? So is it losing motivation or being too busy? The most common one also, like busyness happens and then you're like, oh gosh, I don't have time for this. Or is it like all of a sudden you feel like I'm shifting in my goals and my priorities? Which one? Okay, so thank you so much, Jihan. As you said, being too busy, definitely. Yes. Other reasons. So what are your other reasons? So maybe, yes, losing motivation, and other, the first two, losing motivation, being too busy. Yeah, I think mine would be the first two as well. Shifting in goals and priorities, yeah, maybe as well. So you can see how different kind of priorities happen. Or maybe you have another reason, like what Amirami, okay, I like what you said, lack of consistency, procrastination, definitely. How about perfectionism? That can be another one. That's one of mine also. Wanting to do it perfectly when the planets align, and then all of a sudden you're like, gosh, it's March. Doesn't sound nice to start like in March. Maybe I'll start like, in April or something. Suddenly you just have a reason. Maybe I'll start like right after this project is done. I'll only start after this is done. I'll only start after that. So we kind of don't have proper action plan. Exactly. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Yeah, exactly. Perfectionism, analysis paralysis. Exactly, totally true. So you know what we're gonna do today? We're gonna throw out our resolutions for a while. Okay, we're gonna go from goal oriented to process oriented. So I love this. I used to be such a sucker for planners. Okay, I don't know if you're like that as well. Are you like someone who's very addicted to like, I gotta get organizer? December, I go and buy a organizer. I have to buy. So I don't know if that was you. That was me. And I used to always get these beautiful organizers and planners, right? And then only to scribble on it, change plans, and then suddenly feel demotivated that why am I not following my planner? Well, I got news for you. The only thing constant in life is change, isn't it? So change is gonna happen. It's inevitable. So for me, I feel so bad to like something on my planner. So what I do is I end up not using it and becomes a beautiful artifact in my room. So what I find useful for me, honestly, is right now, this is what works for me: paper. So using some kind of a paper to kind of like really organize those kind of things. You know why? I'm not putting it a set in stone kind of a goal. I'm moving from goal orientation to process oriented. So when you have process orientation, you're kind of like looking at things as work in progress. It's not like this is my set in stone goal that I have to achieve by December or else. And so that kind of puts a lot of pressure on ourselves. So okay, yeah, totally. After getting all the planners and don't know what to write and plan, exactly. It's never easy to keep the momentum throughout the year, definitely. That's why we want to like lessen the pressure a little bit and shift from goal orientation to more of New Year process orientation, if you can think of it in that way. So, what I like to think of it, yes, I love the SMART goal, definitely. So look at this picture, everyone. All right. Looking back at 2022, right? How would you describe your emotion? Would you say one or would you say two? Or would you say 1.5? You can choose 1.5 too. Totally. Well, no, sorry, that's not 1.5. You have to type in the chat if you want a 1.5. But can you answer our poll over here? Would you kind of choose one or two? If you're 1.5, let's round it up to two. Okay. So which one would you say? How well or not so great did your 2022 go? I'm gonna choose two for myself because there were a lot of sweat and tears and frustrations as well, but I think it really ended really nicely, and it very nicely I could see the silver lining. So a lot of you, I'm seeing like majority of you choosing the happy one, which is super nice. Anyone else want to keep sharing? So okay, majority of you are like choosing the happy one, so I can say that most of you are kind of contented with 2022. Really nice to see that. It's okay if you're frustrated, by the way, that's also all right, because every negative experience teaches us something about ourselves. That's how you have something known as post-traumatic growth. It's a very important part in positive psychology. I teach positive psychology as well, so it's really nice to see that. So I think most of you are having, yeah, that Okay, thank you for sharing that. Most of you are kind of happy relatively, but for those of you who are frustrated, it's also okay because whatever that happens, even a mistake is a lesson in that. Hey, a broken clock also is right twice in a day, isn't it? So something that went wrong can also be something of a reminder to us of what's actually important to us. So if you're sad about this or upset about something, it also shows you how important that thing is to you, which means that you're here today to actually kind of make some modifications to make things a little better, right? So I like what Irene said just now, a smart goal. Wait, she says three. Okay, interesting. I love that. So when you look at the stages of change, right, the goals or priorities that you had last year, can you kind of look at this model here? We call this the trans theoretical model of change by Francesca and Clemente. So they came up with this model. It's a really interesting model. In exercise psychology, they also use this model, very famous one, to show what actually the kind of stage that you're in and how can we assess where we're at in our goal and how can we move up the ladder or the staircase a little bit. So say for example, you really wanted to cut down on sugar last year, for example, okay? And then you're like, I really wanted to so badly, but I don't really know how to do that. It's so hard to plan for it. So I'm just like, I want to, but I don't know how yet. And it's just floating up here. You're in contemplation stage. If you're going to be in that particular kind of a mindset, right? You're actually in contemplation. You haven't gone to preparation. But if you are kind of like, yes, I really want to reduce some sugar and maybe carbs. So I have opted for a healthier breakfast. I now don't take white sugar. So I'm doing that every day for like maybe I've started to make a plan. I would only allow myself maybe a cheat meal on Saturday. So now you have preparation. You're in preparation stage. But you haven't gone to action stage yet unless you say I'm already practicing it for about few weeks. So now you're in action stage. And if you are like doing it for a couple of months, then I can say like you're in maintenance stage. But remember, it's very common to relapse and fall down the stairs a little bit, to go backward. So how to shorten the gap of change, like quicker to make the decision to change. Yeah, I think that would depend on this little part over here. So our mind. So the quicker our mindset is ready to adapt, that is as quick as how the change can happen. So it's kind of like over here. It's a mental game, like you also mentioned just now, the smart goal. How can we make it smarter, which is one of the things that we will come to later. So that's a little bit of that. So it's kind of a mind game here. If you realize how badly you want it, I want you to think about three things here. So are you able to make that change? Are you willing to make that change? And are you ready? So if you can have these three particular goals here, you can be sure that you're kind of like prepared to move up the ladder. So willing, able, and ready. Usually these three things. Um, so successful entrepreneurs seem to have less resistance on change. I like that. Yeah, it's true. I think maybe if there's a need to change, then yeah, that's very important for us to actually have flexibility. So psychological flexibility, being willing to change, being willing to be openness to experiences. So that's a little bit about that. So think about your goals last year. Where are you on that ladder or staircase this year, right now? I like what somebody said just now when you mentioned analysis paralysis. That's exactly this. So sometimes, right, there's this paradox of choice where it's like too much choices also cannot. I mean, think about it when you go to like a fast food joint, there's like so many things on the menu and you really take time to choose, right? You're like, which one should I take? If I take this, then I get that. If I take this, then I get that combo, and then I can save this and save that. So the paradox of choice. And sometimes when people limit your choices, you kind of feel thankful because you feel like, okay, this makes things a bit easier now. So that is why it's very important to not have too much process oriented goals or anything on your plate. If you have 10, which is what I used to have last time, it's usually, we can't even remember, right? If I ask you, like, what are your 10 goals? Maybe you're like, I know I had this, I had that. So I'm going to share with you right now. Think about three, not goals, but work in progress, top notch tasks that you'd like to start. So think about it first, keep it in here first for a little bit. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. The resistance can be really big if you grew up in a negative environment. And it's kind of like, we in psychology will call it like predisposing factors. So when your childhood experience perhaps was like kind of negative, it can affect your mindset towards the possibilities of things happening in the future as an adult, right? But the good news is it doesn't have to stay that way, you know? You can make some changes to kind of reprogram yourself today. We're gonna do that afterwards as well. So too much choices is bad for ADHD. Can't decide always. Yeah, definitely. It's kind of gonna be not exactly helpful for that. So that's why we need to streamline it a little bit down. So willing, able, and ready. And ready. So are you willing? Willing? Are you really willing to do that? Sanggup, able, mampu, ready, sedia. So it's really nice when you think about it in that way. What were your blockers? Okay, whenever we fail at something, actually, there's a blocker, you know. A lot of times, our reason is not malas or lazy. Come on. Sometimes there are bigger reasons than that, right? If you didn't achieve something, I feel that it could be so many other blockers and reasons. Don't you think so? So, let's see. What were the examples of process-oriented goals? Yeah. So, process-oriented goals, I would say it's anything that you want to start. So, it's not like I just want to be slimmer. That's too huge. If you say that's like an end goal. That's like more of an outcome. If you say process oriented, it's more like my goal for this year. I really want to be able to just reduce one sendok of nasi on my plate. I want to reduce one scoop of rice on my plate. So that's like a very doable, realistic, relevant, and kind of a process, not an end goal. So think of it as a process. So I want to be able to have more time with my family. If we want to put like something like that, it's too huge. But if we put it as like every Saturday, I'll make sure that we have date night. So it's kind of process oriented, and then inevitably you would have more time with your family, right? So I want to share with you this very nice technique here. It's called the downward arrow technique. It's adapted from there. I kind of changed it a little bit in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy is a technique in psychology, right? What I want to share with you is this is a particular kind of a flow of how we can slowly analyze your blockers, because a lot of times we kind of don't do things that we really want to do, things that are super important to us. For example, you really want to start taking care of your skin. As simple as that. Or hair. How many of you have like hair loss, just getting stressed last year? I can relate to that. Or maybe like, maybe you're like, you really want to start eating right and you really want to start having a proper fitness regime. So a lot of times, right, everyone, we have blockers. Why we couldn't do that? You shared with me in the first slide just now. I like that you shared that. So I like what somebody shared that just now when you said that could be what you actually grew up with, right? When you were younger. So let's look at this right now. Think about your blocker, okay? I was not able to spend enough time with my family. I was not able to. What was your stressor, actually? Your stressor was, gosh, I'm so upset that I was overworking and, I didn't have enough leisure time. Gosh, I'm so stressed that your stressor right now is like, I'm so upset that I didn't manage to achieve maybe going for my half an hour walk, which I wanted to. I barely did it. So what is your emotion about that stressor right now? Maybe frustration, anger, upset. And then what is your thought about that? So your thought can be something along the lines of like, I think that I really can't do it. I really feel like giving up or something, the kind of a thing. So I want you to take a step further and think about what someone typed in the chat just now when she said that it could also be related to growing up in a negative environment. So what is your source? You hit the bullseye actually when you said that. So what is the source? What is the past experience? Where is this thought coming from that's being a blocker right now in your life? Where is it coming from? So it's a very nice technique for you to actually realize, everyone. And I want you to help yourself to slowly reprogram that particular source, that root cause of it. We're going to heal from that. And a very nice way to heal from that is to use this technique called the yes but technique. I like to know, it's actually a cognitive reframing technique in psychology where you can reprogram your mind in a very simple way. It kind of is helpful. Try it out and see. So it goes down like this. Yes, okay, you can use this worksheet that's in the handout sections, everyone. So please download it for a little bit. Okay. So it goes like this. Yes, I kind of sucked at my plans last year. I did not manage to finish the things that I really wanted to finish. I didn't manage to, I was procrastinating and blah, blah, blah. All the things that was negative that you find that you were not able to do. But it's not too late. 2023 is here. I can still mend it. I can still do it. I'm still alive. I'm breathing. I can do this. So it's like basically it's yes followed by your blocker, and then but followed by how can we see the silver lining right now? How can we reprogram ourselves right now? So in that way, an example here is like, yes, been kind of arguing with my spouse or friend and really feel really upset. But you know what? We have had some good times, and I think I'm gonna value that, and I'm gonna see how we can move past this difficult time right now. So it's kind of like that. You reframe yourself. So can you try to download that particular handout for just a bit, right? And what I want you to do is try to type in that handout. So you have your blocker right there. Okay, what is your blocker? So I gave you some examples. These are actual blockers by some of my clients. So like with regards to New Year's resolutions. Okay, so like no time to exercise, perfectionism over there is like mind law. Okay, that's I can okay, that's my sharing there. What's your emotion about it? So I put like, oh gosh, I have a fear of failing. Like I don't want to fail. I want to do my best. So that's where it's coming from. Okay, the thought. So my thought is, you know what? I cannot start until everything is proper and nice and looking beautiful. Then I will start that report. Then I will start that project. Then I will start my exercise after I get the perfect, you know, whatever workout outfit or something, for example. Can you relate to that? And then type the source. So I like what someone shared just now. Like it's like I had a negative environment growing up. Yeah, those kind of stuff. Like, you know, even in school, maybe you can say that we were always expected to be perfect and, you know, mistakes were not tolerated or welcomed. You can type stuff like that. What can I do differently now as an adult to reprogram myself? So that's the part that you can type. I'm going to give you a little bit of time for you to do that. Okay. Can you try to kind of like to type that and see? Okay, once you've typed it, right, can you share with us, because I can't see what you're typing? Like, can you share in the chat box what you typed? Maybe you don't have to type every column, but maybe you can just type like what that blocker was for you, and then what is your yes but, or maybe just type your yes but. I think it'll be so cool to see you reframe. So if you can type your yes but, for example, you know, yes, blah 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 blah, but, so yes is going to be followed by a blocker, and but is going to be followed by what you can do differently now. It really helps a lot, you know, seriously, especially if you're having an argument with someone also. It helps you to calm down. Will it be normal to modify our New Year resolution throughout the year? Does this mean that we are reducing our expectation? Exactly what I was trying to share with you. That's such a great question. Thank you so much. So that's the answer for that is it's normal. It's okay. And it doesn't mean that you're reducing your expectation. Quite the contrary. It means that you are kind of like beautifying it even more. You're reprogramming it even more. And actually, remember, the goal is actually process oriented. So it's work in progress. The fact that it's WIP already means that modifications are welcomed. You're actually it's very much work in progress, because as you try, then you realize like, you know what, it's kind of hard to stay away from white sugar completely, law. So like, I'm gonna have my cheat meal, I'm gonna have my cheat day, I'm gonna find a way to make it more doable. That's work in progress, so it's definitely okay to do that. So I don't really do New Year resolution now after going through cancer treatment. I'm looking at monthly work in progress. I love that so much, my dear. Honestly, I really salute you for doing that. I lost my best friend to cancer, and she does have this kind of a mindset of like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be a fighter and everything. I have another friend now who's just been diagnosed, and she's like a fighter too, and very much, you can say, positive and ambitious. She's working while still going for chemo, and she has a mastec due next month. So it's really nice to see that. I like that you're doing the work in progress monthly. You know what, my dear? Actually, all of us should do that too. Let's follow what she's doing. Let's do a work in progress monthly kind of a thing. Top notch task, because you're doing short term goals. And I love that, by the way. That's such a great idea. That's a really nice way to do that. I want to share with you something else afterwards also that reminded me about something else. So the situation's really tense. I'm finding a way out, hopefully an amicable one. Yep, definitely. It can be very tense sometimes. We just gotta find a way slowly to maneuver, right? Look at your past experiences sometimes. You can learn a lot from your past experiences as well, because you're here now. Think about all the things that you've been through that are so tensed up, but you're still here today. You still showed up for this talk, even. So it shows me resilience, honestly. And you can learn so much from your past experiences as well. And I applaud you, all of you, for showing up today, honestly. I want to share with you something interesting. Why what she shared just now about the monthly work in progress is super awesome also, because according to Parkinson's law, right, a project that we give expands to the time that you give it. So there's this thing here, this law called Parkinson's law. Okay, it expands to the time that you give it. If you say I'm going to work on this report or this proposal for this whole day today on Thursday. I'm going to work on it this whole day. And you know what? Even though you can finish it in 1 hour, somehow it will expand. It will expand very, very miraculously to be like whole day. But if you say to yourself, I'm going to give myself 20 minutes to finish this. If I don't finish it, it's fine. I'm just going to start it first. That's why the work in progress thing comes in. I'm just going to start it and then I'm going to see what I do. You'll be surprised you can complete a lot in 20 minutes. That one day task can actually be finished in maybe even 1 hour. So when you do that, it's like chunking, exactly like what she was saying just now about the monthly work in progress. I love that so much. My stress is a person. How do I come out of this? Yes, definitely. People can be stressors. So a very good way to think of it is when we can't really change the stressor, that's when we got to change the way we look at things and make some slight modifications. That's what we call adapting. So how do we change the way we look at it, and how do we change the way it's affecting us? So some slight modifications in that. Maybe you can type later in the chat box as well, like how is that person causing you stress? Then we can see how to maneuver around it. So I like what someone's saying here. I like to set achievable goals per day and be kind to myself. That's awesome. That's what I do with my white paper. I set achievable goals for today. My work in progress for today. I tell myself things I did do at the end of the day as opposed to what I didn't do. That's really nice. That's really really nice. Okay, so I'm gonna come to this one first before I continue with your questions and comments. Yeah. So all right, how can we make better New Year resolutions? How? This is the meat of it, everyone. How do we do that? So, you've got the blockers out just now, right? You've got the blockers there. By the way, you can keep typing in the chat box for your yes part so we can have a look at it. So, now that you've got the blockers out of the way, you've identified the source of it, you've kind of tried to reprogram. Let's look at some tips of how we can slowly start to, guide ourselves towards really achieving it. So, step number one, identify your values and your motivation. What is your intrinsic motivation? Why is that particular task so important to you? So, I'm going to use an example here in the chat box. I lost motivation to keep on exercising. I was prioritizing my kids and my mental health, and I will start with exercising 30 minutes this week. Does this work? Yes, definitely. That's a very good technique that you're putting out there. So it looks like, because you're prioritizing your kids, sometimes in mental health, it can be kind of difficult to really start a physical activity, right? But now that you have this willpower, okay, are you willing? I can see that you are. Are you ready? Are you really ready? And are you able? So when can you really commit 30 minutes this week? Once a week, maybe. Start small first. What is your value for wanting to do that? Your value can be, I'm a disciplined person. I'm actually a very holistic, let's say for example, right, I'm a holistic, disciplined, and value focused person. So my intrinsic motivation is because when I feel fit and have a good stamina, I can be my best self and I feel like energetic throughout the day. So that's something I love so much. Even I noticed that it comes also, my family's like that too. Like my parents, they're like in their 70s and they're so into like, I gotta do it, age is just a number kind of a thing. So it's very nice when you can think of it in that way. So that's the first step. Step number two is having a mental plan. Do you actually have a mental plan of it. Like I like what someone shared just now about exercising for 30 minutes. She has a mental plan. So can you actually have a proper plan up here to really start? So let's look at all of you. I need to push myself on my New Year resolution to the point that I start to get depressed when I didn't achieve. But now I take it slow. Yeah, that's why the paradox of choice, right? Do you think so? Like it can be stressful. To plan too much also is not good. So that's why I'm so into not being so much into my plan. It's more like work in progress. So more like three top-notch tasks that you want to achieve this year, and then you can break it down to per month, like what she shared just now, right? So think of it in that way, because if your goal setting is now affecting you, it's like probably we need to adjust things a little bit, because it shouldn't feel terrible. It should feel fun and nice, right? So find how you can make it in a fun way. I wish to have a daily goal set up, but I have so much to achieve and I really don't know where to start from. Exactly. Start small. Usually the thing that you think about before you sleep, the thing that you think about after you wake up, that's something that's very important for you, usually. What's usually on your mind? What did you type in the stressor box just now? So that's, you can start with that, right? So the mental plan, number one is having a growth mindset. So value identification exercises. Yeah, I like that. So how to have a framework for value identification exercises. So what is your value, first of all? Is your value kind of like discipline, integrity, having a balance in life, being able to have joy and peace? Is your value being able to spread positivity? Is your value having maybe being able to be true to yourself, being able to have a like strike a balance, have good relationships with everyone? What is important to you right now? Is your value kindness? So when you have that, if your value is kindness, then you gotta, if you're not kind to yourself, you're also going against your value, are you not? So you are also an individual that needs to be kind to yourself too. So having a growth mindset, it's okay to change plans halfway, because it shows me that you are realizing and learning that, okay man, let's do an appraisal, quarter 1 appraisal of my goals and how I stand, which, where am I on that staircase? Remember that staircase just now? Where am I on that staircase? So maybe I need to modify some things if some things are not moving up the staircase. So that's not having a fixed mindset, it's having a growth mindset. And I like what somebody shared just now when you shared that, I want to focus on what I did today as opposed to what I didn't do. That's having an abundance mindset, you know. That's very nice. And then having an openness to experience, like kind of like being curious about your day, being curious that what made me not achieve this last year. So you're having a mindset of learning as opposed to judging. Okay, I really want to come to the chats as well, but just give me just one moment, yeah? I want to share with you something very interesting here. So you got to know about visualization. I teach sports psychology, right? There's this very nice term known as psychoneuromuscular theory. So it's such an awesome theory that you got to learn about. It's a lot of athletes use this, by the way. So visualization is not just some kind of a woohoo, funny kind of a activity, which is like you just gonna dream and stuff like that. It's actually very scientifically proven, and it's very physiological. It's not just like mentally, trying to imagine and dream. It's very physiological. There's a part in your brain that is responsible for this, which is known as the reticular activating system. So this part in your brain is like a bundle of neurons, and its main goal or main function is to act as a filter. Whatever experiences that you had in your past as a child, and all of those things are being kind of captured in that filter like a TV. So you can reprogram that part to help your life to kind of like turn out in a way where it's kind of relatively favorable to you now, and also helping you to achieve your goals in a much more better way. Seriously. So this is how it works. You got to do these 2 steps for it to work. Number one is, yeah, manifestation. Exactly. So number one is, I used to do this when I was younger, but I think I was doing it wrong. You know how like you have exam and then you write all those subjects and you put A. Anybody do that before? But I think I wasn't doing it right because I didn't do these 2 steps. So it goes like this. Step number one, imagine what you want this year to look like. How do you want to look like this year? And step number two, you're going to attach an emotion to that thought. So you're going to imagine like, oh wow, how great it would be when I'm looking like that. How great it would be when I'm achieving that task this year. How great it would be to have more time for myself, for my family, and how I'm enjoying myself. And you feel that joy and that pleasure. When you do these two steps, your brain cannot tell the difference between a fake imagined memory or a real memory when you do these two steps. But you got to do these two steps. That means you imagine the picture and you attach an emotion to it. So your brain thinks it's really happening. You want to know evidence for that? For example, when you're watching a movie, it's a really sad movie, K-drama or something, like you're like really watching it and you're like, oh my gosh, and you start to cry because the character just died. I mean, you don't even know that character. You know it's a fake storyline, for example, maybe. So how come you're crying to that? Right? Bollywood, exactly. How come you can cry when and then they play the music and everything? Because you are watching the scene, you attached an emotion to the character and the scenario, and within 2 hours you attach an emotion, and you can cry and cry and cry so much because your body thinks that it's really happening, even though your mind knows that, yeah, it's not. I know it's just a movie, but your brain is like sending the signal to your body to respond to it. So if you watch like a scary movie, Conjuring, Ju-on, or something like that, okay, and then you kind of like attach an emotion to it, you feel scared, and then now your body has goosebumps or your heart is palpitating. So that's how powerful our brain is. It sends a signal to your body. So what I did is like we can't manifest that movie scene into real. No, no. So you're not manifesting that movie scene into reality. Your body is kind of like responding to it. So that means your body is kind of like thinking it's really happening. So it's not, if you actually want to manifest that movie scene, probably you need to like let's say for example it's a happy movie scene, right? And you really want to achieve that too. So you gotta like there's certain steps that you need to do. Probably you imagining yourself in that particular scene achieving those things, and if you do that often enough, it's kind of like you're sending a signal to your body to kind of spot opportunity to achieve that particular kind of action. So a little disclaimer, it may not work all the time, okay? It's also subject to circumstances and, the will and everything, right? So what I'm trying to share with you is that it increases the chances of you programming yourself. So a little bit of example here. Um, I set David Beckham picture as my desktop wallpaper. I have no male friend because I'm too handsome to them. Okay, awesome. Yes, congratulations on that wonderful manifestation, by the way. Okay, I have tried to manifest positive events, but no up feeling. Feel empty and sad. Okay, so maybe you try this particular two steps and see, right? So what I did was I kind of this is my desktop, by the way, the one on the left. I love going to the beach, like super, 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 so much. Maybe because I'm from Penang, I don't know. So I love the beach so much, and I live in KL, so maybe I miss it so much. So I keep having these desktop pictures of beaches, and I also know this particular theory. So I thought, like, let's do that experiment on myself. So these are my actual desktop pictures, the one on the left and the one on the right. And I noticed that last year, as I had these tula that I kind of change sometimes, and when I kept looking at this and like, okay, so beautiful. That's step number one. Number two, how great it would be to just walk by that shore. My gosh, it would be super nice. And then, ironically, is it like a coincidence? Maybe or maybe not. Book trip to the actual pictures. So the left one is like that was in Johor. The right one is in PD. So it kind of like looks, well, not exactly the same, but kind of like beachy still. And I never had this before, like as many times as last year. I actually had like 4, 5 trips to the beach area. I coincidentally had work trips to that kind of places, which then had a visit to the beach area. So what happens is, it's not magic or what, okay? So it's kind of like you're imagining it, your brain perceives it like, gosh, we are preparing to go there, maybe. And then it sends a signal to your body to spot opportunities that are available for you to grab. And then suddenly, maybe you send out those vibes or something. So you kind of grab out those opportunities and it kind of slowly starts to happen a bit more. It's very much vision board concept. You gotta start practicing that. So yeah, exactly, vision board. Yes. So it's really interesting. Can all of you, while I'm speaking right now, just find something really interesting to do? I mean, to spot out, right? And think of a particular kind of an activity. So we're gonna do that together right now. Okay, we're gonna get real deep right now, everyone. an activity that we're going to do together. I need you to do these 2 steps. Are you ready? All right, we're going to do it with some music. Can I ask Mikey to help us out with music? Okay. So I need you to close your eyes. Seriously, it's going to make the picture clearer. I'm going to do that with you too. Can everyone close your eyes wherever that you are right now? Okay. And think of one picture of what you'd like to achieve this year. Can be anything. It can be how you would like to see yourself in a different way. It can be how you'd like to look healthier, fitter, more stamina. Now imagine what that looks like. Who is present around you at that time? What are you wearing? Be so vivid with your imagination. And what's around you? What's happening in your life at that moment? Now, the second step, imagine how great it would feel living that particular picture right now. How great it will feel doing that particular task in your picture. How fulfilled you'd feel. How contented you would feel. And how amazing and happy and liberated that you will feel when you're actually carrying out that particular task, when you're achieving that dream, when you're finishing that project, when you're starting your exercise, when you're starting to spend time with your family, when you actually enjoy your job, and you see yourself happier this year. Can you attach that emotion right now? Lock it in. All right, lock it in right now, and slowly open your eyes. Come back to the present and know that your brain is already sending signals to your body right now to go get it. Because as far as your brain and your body is concerned, they think it's happening and it's going to spot opportunity for you to really achieve that. So thank you so much, Mikey. Yeah, we can pause that. So how do you guys feel? Can you type in the chat box? How do you feel about that particular? Did you kind of see yourself doing that? What were you doing? Did you really get into that zone? If you do this every single day for just 1 minute at night before you sleep, it's going to be super powerful. So I want to share something funny that I did. Okay, so yeah, exactly. You feel like you're already there, right? Exactly. I used to do this a lot with pregnant moms. Okay, so these moms were like really nervous about delivery. They were like for third trimester and everything. We would literally imagine their birthing process, and nobody went into contractions, don't worry, but we would literally imagine their birthing process. Exactly, right? I cry too, actually, when I do this. So we would imagine how they are as a family, and then you gear yourself towards it. It's even more powerful, everyone, if you do this every day. So I did that for my PhD, okay? So I really wanted to achieve it. There were a lot of periods of moment where I was stuck in my PhD journey as well. And so I started to visualize myself going up on stage, getting my scroll, and I would do it to, you know what music? Josh Groban, You Raise Me Up. So I was like, yeah, you raise me up to all that I can be, whatever. So I would be like imagining myself walking up there. When I actually did graduate and go for my convocation, I had that playing in my mind as I was walking and receiving it. It's like super awesome. So you guys got to do that. It's super nice, but you got to start today, every single day if you can, without stopping. You kind of like do it for just 1 minute if you can, seriously. The third part, everyone, is having a behavioral plan. So the action plan, now that we've got the blockers out of the way, we got the mental part done, your body is processing from your brain, it thinks it's happening, okay? Now we got to manifest it physically, not just like imagine it only. We also got to kind of put in a little bit of effort, right? So to kind of realize that vision board. So what we can do is, number one, I want to share with you this rule called the 888 rule. You know how we have 24 hours in a day, right? So ideally, of course, we want to have like 8 hours for work, 8 hours for play, 8 hours for sleep. But is that happening? Nah, where is it going to like, come on, this is like super kind of like, fairy tale, kind of immortal kind of a thing. So nah, it's not going to be happening. But can you tell me what is your ratio? Like ideally, it should not deviate too much from the 888 if it's possible. So what would be your ratio? Mine is, okay, let me tell you when I was having burnout symptoms last time, okay? It was like maybe I was working, I would start as early as 8, I would finish at like 12 a.m. So how many hours is that? Like, that's like 16 hours, isn't it? That's so crazy. So what is your ratio? I'm going to share with you my ratio last time and my ratio now. So 12 for work, 4 for play, 8 for sleep. Okay. Whichever your ratio is, right? Try to judge if you're kind of happy with that ratio. 2 hours is already on the road. Oh, sorry about that. But you know what? My client was so stressed about that, right? She would play very nice podcasts, and then it became like a self-help kind of a road journey. So you can think about it that way. Okay, gonna be my reading. Yeah, exactly. 12, 5, 7. Okay, what does that work for you, by the way? Or do you feel like, no, I want to reduce the 12 part, which is okay if you want to reduce it. What do you think? Do you think that was 12 for work, 4 for play, 8 for sleep? A lot of you have 12 for work, right? 9 to 9, is it? Or 8 to 8? Is that kind of a thing? I know, actually, a lot of people I know have that as well. Sometimes I also, but I try to reduce that now, okay? Because when it's 12, right, it's kind of like going to take up majority of your day. See if you can kind of slowly maneuver to lock it down to 11 slowly, because then you have more time for other things. See if you can, or unless you like the 12, then it's fine. So what is your particular, oh, problem reading in moving vehicles? No, I mean like audio kind of books, maybe. 10, 6, 8 sounds like a nice mix, that sounds nice. Yeah, I like that. So whichever it is, see how you can kind of maneuver your hours a little bit, because your hours can really affect how you feel. I like that question. Must the number make up 24? I wish it did not, I seriously wish it was 36. But unfortunately, yeah, it's 24. Okay. So smart goals. Let's smartify your goals. Remember the thing that you just imagined just now that was super awesome, right? Let's try to make it a bit smarter. Like, for example, if I say, okay, I really want to publish a book this year, okay? I have everything's ready. I just need to apply for copyright and ISBN and everything. But I haven't done it. There's this perfectionism in me, remember? So I have to smartify it. I have to make sure that I get the copyright thing settled by the end of next week, for example. Is it specific? Yes. Is it measurable? I've given myself like, next week. So there's like a couple of days. And every day I'm going to work on maybe like 10 minutes of liaising with the copyright people on how I can work on it. That's very measurable. Is it the smart goal? You guys, can you think about your smart goal? Okay. So the Pomodoro. The Pomodoro technique is something super duper duper nice. Okay, if you guys know Spanish, then you know Pomodoro is actually a tomato in Spanish, right? So this guy named Francisco Cerello, he came up with this technique. And he was like in his kitchen, and then he was looking at his kitchen timer in the shape of a tomato. By the way, you can buy it online. I saw it, looks cute. It's like a dial. So he said that, what if I use my kitchen timer to time myself while I do my work? So why the kitchen timer? Of course, you can use handphone also, but it's kind of interesting when he used the kitchen timer. It's got 25 minutes and everything. So he said that let's set our mind for 25 minutes of crunch focus time, crunch and focus time, and 5 minutes for taking a break and just like enjoying and resting. You'll be surprised that your brain becomes super energetic when you do that. Seriously, why is it that you should not continue, even though at the end of 25 minutes I feel so energetic? I can continue, Pam. I don't need to take a break. No, you thought you gotta take a break, because when you take a break, for example, you go to the bathroom, or you just take a glass of water, or you just like maybe check your messages for just 5 minutes, if you have that kind of self-control. Okay, it's super awesome, because when you come back after 5 minutes, your brain has like a recenter kind of a thing. So it's really amazing if you can do that. Super, super nice. It really helps you to start things that were difficult to start as well. So try it and see. After you do 4 sessions of 4 25 minutes blocks, you can take a longer break. So it's kind of cool to do that, you guys. Seriously, it really helps a lot. And if you're like me, I like to listen to some instrumental music while doing my crunch. So it's really super nice. Let's see. So spend 4 hours commuting to and from. Let's play. Gosh, that's a lot of hours, right? I'm so sorry that 4 hours is on commuting. But I think that 4 hours of commuting, you can actually incorporate some other kind of stuff while you're commuting. Are you the driver? If you are the one who's driving, then maybe something that's audible, then kind of a thing, right? Okay, so I want to share with you another technique. It's super interesting and amazing. It's called don't break the chain technique. Okay, so the don't break the chain technique goes like this. Think of it as what exactly usually are the triggers for your bad habits when you tend to like maybe avoid doing your goals, and then think about usually we avoid it because escapism, and escapism makes us feel calmer, but it's only short term. What if we can actually start our goal slowly and the reward is more long lasting, right? It's kind of fun. So I want you to think about 1 hour, okay? And think about how you can kind of break up that particular hour. This is linked to the next slide as well. So think about how you can kind of break up an hour into 3 sections. So we have like, for example, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, right? So it's very much linked to the next slide I'm going to show you. So it goes like this. Think of 3 tasks that you want to start every day. 3 things, maybe that 3 things that you were thinking about in the beginning just now. So let's say, okay, like me, I want to start on that copyright book thingy. I want to also start working out. Okay, so I want to do stomach, okay, exercise, let's say crunches. And then I also want to start eating healthily. So I want to incorporate some oats into my breakfast. So these 3 things, I'm going to give it like 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. If every day I check these 3 things out, you're going to put an X on your calendar to put like, okay, on 12th of January, I did those 3 things. Then on the 13th again, I did those 3 things. You know why 20 minutes? We want to trick our brain into thinking that, hey, all these goals, right, it's just going to take 1 hour of your day. It's not too overwhelming. You can actually do it. And then you check it on your calendar. So as human beings, we have this kind of principle. It's like very much like a gestalt principle, they call it. You like continuity. So you kind of like continuity very much, and you kind of crave for continuity. So you would like to finish, you would kind of like to continue to not break the chain of that. So that's how it works. So it kind of links to this, the golden hour. Segment your 3 processes into 20 minutes blockers, and then see how you can incorporate this hour into your day. So another kind of tip for you, everyone. Another tip for you is very much the 5 minute rule. Okay, so the 5 minute rule kind of goes into mentioning that, you know how sometimes we feel very much afraid to start something, and sometimes you kind of feel very much like overwhelmed, like somebody start here, right? You feel very overwhelmed, and you feel like maybe your boss tells you to pass up something, and you feel like, oh my gosh, I think I will work on that proposal tomorrow, and then tomorrow comes and it goes on and on and on. So usually it could be fear driven, it could be perfectionism driven, it could be that you want to do it so perfectly, but it ends up in procrastination. So what I do is I tell myself the 5 minute rule. Play a particular song that lasts for about 4 minutes plus, I don't know, something along those lines. And when you play that song, right, or music, I think it's better if it's music and instrumental that lasts for about 5 minutes. You can find one on YouTube, and then set your timer and just totally crunch down to just do all you can eat buffet, all you can type buffet, just for 5 minutes, and see what happens. Even if it's junk or terrible or bad, it's okay. You started the ball going. So it's kind of a very good way for you to start your action plan. And finally, I want to share with you that even if you do fail after all these things, it's really okay, because that's what, as humans, we are fallible by nature. That's the law, right? We actually humans. So if we're perfect, then we're gonna be immortal. Or gonna be some kind of a Marvel character. Even Marvel is also got flaw, right? So we're by nature we're human. So to err is human. So it's really all right that you fall back sometimes and you relapse. It's okay. Embrace that uncomfortable emotion of guilt. Forgive yourself and say, yes, I failed terribly, but tomorrow is another day and I can still do it. You know, sometimes you feel like I'm not giving my best. Oh my gosh, I didn't do good enough. This is what I say to myself, you tried your best. And it's actually a quote that I saw somewhere. I'm sure you came across this. I tried my best, and if my best was not good enough, at least I can say to myself, I gave it all that I had today. So you gotta give yourself some credit. Sometimes It's like we are giving our battery also can run out, right? We don't have something to charge, the charging happens automatically based on what we do. So it's very important for you to be kind to yourself. Know that it's okay to embrace setbacks, because that's what helps you learn and go forward. So I'm now going to pass the time back to Mikey, where we're going to take some questions. Thank you so much, everyone.
Everyone, thank you so much, Pam, for that great session, and to everyone for engaging. I love seeing all your comments coming through. I know Pam has addressed quite a number of your questions during the session already, but we do have a few that came in during registration that we'd like to address as well, which we'll focus on first. If we don't get your questions, don't worry. Please feel free to reach out to your coach in the Naluri app. I will also be sharing the presentation slide, just in case some of you will need to head off before the Q&A session. There you go. It's available in the handout tab. Yes, yeah, in the handout tab. And if you do need to leave as well, please leave your feedback with us in our feedback form, which I'm sharing as a pop-up. Okay, let's go to the questions. First pre-registration question, Pam. How do you look after your mental health when facing a problem you cannot change? For example, you're stuck in a job or you have a really routine life.
All right, thank you so much for that awesome question. I think that's a very valid and important kind of a question. I think I've been there before, so it kind of sounds familiar, like when you're stuck and you just cannot move forward. And I like to think of it as life is like it's like a running track. It's not a race though, it's a running track. So sometimes you'll be crawling and sometimes you'd be walking, and you'll see some people who are like, how come they can jog, and then some people who are like running already. So everyone is in a different stage in their life, in different domains. You might be crawling in relationships, but you might be running in your work. Some people might be crawling in their work, but they're running ahead in relationships. They've got it control. So there are a lot of things that are beyond our control. Whichever stage that you're in, don't be afraid to reach out for help. But what you can do in your own kind of capacity is figure out what is within your control and what is outside your control. Try to think like, what can I do to actually maneuver that? If I can't change the circumstances, can I change the way I look at it? Can I change the things that I can actually do to make things less uncomfortable? For example, I was in a job before that was like so difficult and so stressful in my past, like before. And it was so difficult. You can't just change it, right? You can't just change your boss. You can't just change your job. So what can I do in my life today? I told myself to make it less uncomfortable, to make it less stressful and less distressful. So I would have a cut-off time. I would have self-care after that. I would make sure that every day I would watch a comedy. I would make sure that I would do my work. A difficult task, I would ask someone to help me out. I would actually talk to my boss and say, I'm really going through this. Is there a way you can get this particular task off my plate and maybe I can focus more on this other thing? So some things that are within your control, and then see how you can maneuver from that. Yeah.
And it's not just one solution for everyone, right? It depends on
Yes,
your own
definitely.
situation.
Exactly. Every situation would be different. So I like to think of it also as 4 A's. The 4 A's, which is like accept. If you can't change it, just accept it. But that's hard to do. So maybe you want to alter, but you can't alter every situation sometimes. So maybe then you want to try to avoid it. But let's face it, we can't avoid some stressors, okay, like people or anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then the fourth one, which is adapt. So adapting to it. Yeah.
Great. Oh yeah. Just a reminder to everyone: if you do want to keep your questions anonymous, please remember to write at Pamilia Andrew first before you type your question, and then to tick the send as private message. Okay, we'll go into the next question. What can we do if we need to spend long hours at work and after due to staff shortages and additional work demands, leaving us with not much time for work-life balance or even self-development?
Yeah, that sounds like kind of a bummer for like your New Year's and kind of work in progress, right? It sounds like you kind of made to think that your whole life is just work. When I did feel that way, it kind of makes you have a lot of dark thoughts. You walk down the pathway and I remember walking to my previous job before, and then I was like, what life is this? What am I doing? There's like no life. So when you reach a state like that, right, you gotta kind of reappraise, like, what am I doing right now? Is there anything that I can do to kind of change this, because I'm not happy and I'm suffering? If this is a short-term thing that is going on just for a little while until they hire more staff, maybe that's kind of not so bad to stomach, even though it's kind of hard still. But I would recommend, if you're seeing that it's kind of long term, I think everyone would need to maybe get together to see how you can have a little bit of a meeting to voice out your concerns with the person in charge. Because if the team is not feeling good, ultimately it's going to be a lack of productivity happening. There are two parts that are very important for productivity in a company, and even for you as an employee as well. So we have this thing known as catalysts, and we have this thing known as nourishers. So catalysts are things that are work related tasks that are given to you that help with improvement of the company and your job. And nourishers are you guys. So you are the nourishers, of your workplace. So you are very valuable and needed, and it's very important that your well-being is taken care of. So if you're not feeling okay and you don't have time to do anything else, the nourisher could be malnourished. Oh my gosh. So you kind of need to do something about that. I think you need to, maybe everyone kind of get together to see how you can maybe maneuver around tasks, whether it's like team, like in lecturing, they call it team teaching. So everybody takes a little bit of load for that. So it reduces overall. Or you kind of need to ask, to see if, let's say, a higher management can actually help out with making a little bit of changes and adjustments here and there so that everyone can have some balance while also not affecting the company's productivity. Yeah, I think voicing out that concern.
Yeah, and I guess the first step even would be to recognize this
Yeah,
and to be able to share it. It's very, very important.
yeah.
Okay. Next question. What should you do if your company is limited in your career or aspiration, and at the same time, your part-time job is getting more achievement than your full-time job?
Oh wow, that's really awesome to see that. Like, it's interesting when that happens, right? Your part-time job is like, gosh, I feel like more empowered in my part-time job, which is, it's awesome that you have two jobs, by the way, in the first place. I mean, kudos to you to be able to juggle. And you might be able to see sometimes like, okay, this one is actually meeting my aspirations a bit more. But I also believe that there's a reason why you are in your full-time job as well. There might be some things there perhaps that are adding value to you. Is there anything that you can find that's causing you to join the company in the first place? And then what is adding value to you from that particular full-time job? So try to find that out and then reappraise your performance there and reassess your goals again, I think. And I think sometimes, I mean, this is what my clients have told me. So when they are having and they're succeeding in their part-time job, right, it's also because they have a balance because it's part-time. So sometimes it could also be that. So I think maintaining what you're doing right now, but finding ways to reassess your goals in your full-time job, because that's the one that's kind of depleting right now. So maybe finding a way to position yourself in your full-time job to see how you can get more out of it. Maybe you might be the change that they need. Maybe you might need to suggest things that can actually empower, and maybe that's what they need right now because it's going into a little bit of a mundane stretch, right? So you could be the change that you want to see, I guess.
Right. It's all about taking initiative as well, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so last registration question is, do you have any books to recommend that will read, any books to read that will help in building a good mindset?
Okay, there are a lot of really nice books out there. Even podcasts, if you're into that, or even just watching very nice audios or YouTube videos on these speakers. I think you've heard of them. So like there's Simon Sinek, and then there's the veteran, so Zig Ziglar, and then we have also Mel Robbins, one of my favorites, Joyce Meyer, Terry Settle-Foy. All of these really nice authors. Nick Vujicic also is my favorite. So I think you heard about him as well, right? So it's really nice to read these self-help books. Maybe, sometimes we fall into the trap where I like to read, but I ain't got time for that. Come on, I don't even have time for laundry. So maybe one page before you sleep. You owe it to yourself, right? So I think it's gonna really help a lot. One page is 7 pages a week, That's like 30 pages a month. That's almost a chapter, maybe even a chapter. So really nice if you can read, really, really, really awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We shall move to the live questions now. So first one. Let's go up here. Is it important to have an accountability partner or buddy?
Oh, that's nice. I mean, it depends. If you find that you're the kind of person you need a little bit of a support buddy, I think you'll be really good to do that. So you can always like share your goals with that person. I have one actually, yes, but I don't um count that person so accountable every day. Maybe I should now. It's kind of interesting to do that. It's motivating when you have somewhere to deposit your progress. It's exciting, but you got to be careful. You got to choose the right accountability buddy. Otherwise, the accountability buddy could bring you down as well. So choosing the right buddy for that.
Could you have more than one buddy, like a support group, your
Yep.
family, friends?
Yeah, you can definitely. Yeah, actually, come to think of it, I do have a support group. My family, my aunts and mom and cousins, we have a support group for like making
Mm,
sure that we do self care for cooking, for baking. We always share stuff in there, funny videos. So it's kind of like yeah, it's like a self care support group actually. Like I did
yeah.
this today. What did you do? And blah blah blah. Yeah.
And I guess you're keeping them accountable as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. How do I stay consistent with my goals and persevere till I achieve it?
Okay. Consistent. Oh, consistency. Yes. That's such an important element. So a very nice teacher told me this once: consistency and persistency. If you have these two ingredients, you can go really far in life. So it's not, if you are on the app, right, it's really awesome actually. They have smart goals modules. They also have about how to be consistent. So it's always a very important kind of a motto in Naluri, where we're kind of not into you have to do like 1 hour every day. It's up to you though. It's very much based on your availability and convenience, and it's even better if you can do 10 minutes every day as compared to 1 hour only on Saturdays. So it's very much about consistency and persistency. And that's why you have to make it very embedded into your routine. So a very good way is to make it part of your habit. Think about when, even though you're stressed or you're busy or you're sad, you still brush your teeth, right? I hope, right? You still would do that. It's part of you. So if you can make your new plans part of your old plans, couple it with something. So they call it implementation intention in health psychology. Like you kind of couple it with something that already exists. So right after I have my cup of coffee, I'll make sure I have my oats, for example, together maybe. Or right after I come back from work, that's my cue to change into my exercise outfit and to just have like 15 minutes of watching another video. You know, we have like interactive videos of exercise as well. So that kind of a thing. Like you, before I sleep, my night routine is I'm gonna have this really nice hot drink with a nice maybe self-help book for just 1 page while I visualize my reticular activating system thingy programming. You can do that. So, but you gotta program it coupling with another already existing habit. That way your cue is activated. Yeah.
And I guess there's some sort of reward system as well for
Yes,
keeping
exactly.
consistent.
Yes.
So when you reach a milestone, you can reward with yourself.
Definitely. Very much the habit loop kind of a reward system. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. How do we find our values?
Values. Yeah, exactly. That's important. You know, literally there's a survey for that actually. If you actually type VIA survey, you can actually find it. Values in action survey on Google. It's free. But if you really want to think about it just offhand, you can think of it as, okay, what is important to me in my life right now? What do I really value? So when I did that survey, I got spirituality as my first value, and then now I got humor as my value. So I guess it kind of can change a little bit sometimes depending on your situation. So values, you can think of what is really important to you. You would know, you know. If you can't really think of yours, then ask someone, when you think of me, like, what do you see is important for me? Oh, when I look at you, right, I can see for you family very important, for you friends very important, for you it's very important for you to have a balance, right? I can see. So you can ask someone also what they see in you. So, or you can take the survey as well, values in action survey. It's really interesting to see that. So that's how you can discover your value. Why is it important? Because when we forget, right, what our values are, we don't even actually, even before I knew about values, I wouldn't focus on that. I'll focus on my intrinsic motivation. Blah blah blah. Why is it important? Because when you don't feel good, sometimes it's because you are acting in opposition to your values, you know. Like for me, it's so important to have time for family and friends, and when I don't have time for that, I don't like it, and I go into isolation, like meaning to say that I avoid contact with people because I feel like I can't deal with that right now because I have so much of work, and then I don't feel good like that because it's against my value. So that's why you got to find out your values. Tools to find intrinsic motivation, that would be also when you visualize just now what is really important to you. So if you say just now, I want to exercise, that's a goal. It's not intrinsic motivation. Why do you want to exercise? That's Naluri's, one of Naluri's first modules, actually. You got to take that module. So it says, I want to exercise because I want to be healthy. That's not deep enough yet. Why do you want to be healthy? I want to be healthy because then I'll have more stamina. Still not deep yet. Why do you want to have more stamina? Because then I can be more energetic to achieve my goals and I can inspire others as well. Now we've got your intrinsic motivation. So you have the solid view, really waking up in the morning and like, I gotta do that. I must be healthy because your intrinsic motivation is going to program you.
Okay, just wary of time. We have 5 more minutes for the Q&A, so please do keep asking questions.
Okay.
I'll go to the next question.
All right.
How do you motivate yourself or try recuperate when you feel there are times that you really didn't try your best? You know you could have done better.
How do we recuperate from that? Is it like
Yes, how to deal with the situation and motivate yourself again.
Okay, so after you've failed and you feel like you didn't really do your best and then you want to remotivate. So very much going up the ladder, I think, the staircase just now. So see how far back you've fallen. Maybe have you gone down and relapsed back to contemplation stage? It's like, great, I was exercising so great, and then now I'm back to contemplation. I don't know when to start again. I can't think about it. So find out your blockers. Revisit our handout just now. What was the blocker that caused it? And then see how you can maneuver around re-engaging back with the task. But start small, because sometimes it could be that that particular technique was not sustainable. Maybe your goal earlier was not sustainable enough. It was such a great goal, exercising 30 minutes every day, but maybe it's not sustainable. Maybe you need to lock it down to 10 minutes a day. Maybe you need to lock it down to only 3 times a week. So you can kind of look at it in a good way. It's a way for you to reassess your goals to make it a bit more doable. That kind of a way. Yeah. Okay, that kind of a way, yeah. So that's how we can do that.
Okay, I think we have one last question before we wrap up.
Okay.
I guess this has to do with the blockers. So how do you handle the stress with people?
Yeah, I think that's
they can serve as blockers to your goals as well, I guess.
Definitely. I think like those are like very, very important. Actually, people are blocker. I mean, that's a stressor. So those are the blockers that you have, people issues. So maybe the person not cooperating with you or the way that they're treating you. So the emotion is probably going to be anger and frustration and hurt also. The thought is going to be like, I feel like I'm worthless and I'm not important to the person, or I'm disrespected. And where is it coming from? Maybe is it your past experience and history with that same person, or is it reminding you of some other, maybe past experiences of with other people in the past, your relationships that were really hurtful also. So where is that coming from? And then heal from that and reassess and reevaluate your relationship with that person. Maybe do you need to set boundaries right now? Do we need to kind of think of how do I be kind to myself with regards to being in contact with this person? Do I need to set boundaries? Let me share with you a very nice way to communicate with this person, okay? So this is thing known as I message. Maybe you want to communicate with this person about how they're treating you. Maybe if you want to go headstrong with that, there's this template where you can use I feel, when, because. So it goes like, I feel kind of hurt when there's a lot of emails that I've been sending and there's no response because it makes me feel kind of confused about what's happening and where you're at, that kind of thing. So you're kind of communicating as opposed to you're very disrespectful towards me and I really, can't handle this, blah, 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 that kind of a thing. So this I message focuses on I. So I feel blah, 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 kind of confused when there's kind of go MIA because I don't really know what's happening. So that kind of a thing. So I message is a very nice conversation, communication technique that you can use with interpersonal issues with people. But if you feel you're not at the kind of level to speak iMessage to that person, maybe what you could do is you can just kind of think how you can set boundaries and communicate and reassess your relationship with that person.
Great. Thank you, Pam. I think we've covered all our questions we could at the time span. Is there anything else you'd like to cover up just before we wrap up, Pam?
So I think what I would like just to remind all of you is that remember that you are important. 2023 is about putting you first also. And remember that it's work in progress tasks. So it's okay if it's not perfect. It's okay if it sometimes changes a bit. It's okay if you modify it a little bit because it's a work in progress. The fact that you started is already shows me that you've already won for 2023.
Great. Thank you, Pam. And for our audiences, please remember, if we haven't been able to address your questions, you can reach out to your Naluri coach via the app. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate you so much for being here. Before we sign off, I'd like to remind everyone, please do give us feedback. You can see it in the pop-up on the bottom left. And if you stay on this window as I close the session. Be sure to visit the Naluri community website if you're interested, want to know more about future webinars. Thank you again for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Have a great 2023.